Hello guys, and welcome to Ekon Reviews. So, courtesy of your several inquiries about how the bike has been faring, I'm out here doing a nature ride. So I decided to take this opportunity to give you guys a review. Currently, I've done around almost 66,000, just a minute, 6,356 kilometers. Yeah, so you've been asking about how the bike has been faring. So let me take this opportunity, and it's going to be a raw video, no editing. I just have a small piece of paper with me here, so as not to forget anything. So here is the motor. Before we go to the battery, here's the motor. Anyway, they'll be able to see it. So this is the motor. Yeah, this is the motor, and it's rated at 4.5 kilowatts. The peak power is 9 kilowatt hours, and it's actually comparable to a 150cc motorbike, though the top speed of this bike is rated at around 85-90 kilometers per hour. Personally, I've been able to achieve around 87 kilometers per hour. The battery, this is the battery. This is how it looks like. This is the plug. So to remove it, you just press on this red something here, and then you pull it off. And you have to be careful because this plug is around over 4,000 shillings from what I've been told. I'm not so sure about that, but I heard it's quite expensive, so you have to be very careful on how you plug it in and out. Yeah, it should click like that, so that you make sure it's perfectly fitted into the battery, or no, perfectly connected into the battery, onto the battery. So this is the battery. These are the handles. As I've said, the battery is 72 volts lithium ion battery, and it weighs about probably around 40 kilograms, so it's a bit heavy. Now the top speed, as I've said, is around 87-ish, maybe even 90 kilometers per hour, depending on the amount of weight you're carrying on the battery. I mean, the amount of weight you're carrying on the bike and all that. So now I just wanted to talk about the pros and cons, as most of you have been requesting me to do. This bike has covered over 5,000 kilometers, and I've been with it. I've been testing it extensively for over 4 months. So what I'm going to give you is my very honest review. Now let's start with the cons. Let me put this paper here. Now the first con is the suspension, the rear suspension. This rear suspension is very soft. It's comfort oriented, and you'll notice that, especially if you're carrying probably some weight, or maybe a passenger and a bit of cargo. Let's say you are sorry about that. Let's say you are riding over some maram roads, or some roads that are filled with stones. You will notice that suspension is very, very soft. That is one con I've noticed about it, and that's why if you maybe inquire around, you'll notice that, or if maybe you've seen some of these bikes, they don't come with this stock suspension. Some people replace this suspension with the heavy duty ones. So this is the stock suspension, but from what I've realized, some people change this rear suspension to those heavy duty ones, so as to be able to cope with some rough roads, or maybe carry heavier loads. Another con that I've noticed with this bike is the rear tire. This is It's a sports tire, and right now I'm on Maram Road. It's a bit wet, very slightly wet. This tire is perfect for the tarmac, but when it comes to a bit of wet roads and maybe wet grass, it will just keep spinning. You won't get anywhere. And this is a budget bike, so don't expect anything like traction control here. So this tire, some people also change this to a bit of an slightly off-road biased tire, so that's something that I've also noticed. Now the other con is their build quality. Now look at this panel here, then look at this panel here. 4 months I've been with this bike. I don't park it in places where, okay, I park it in shaded areas, so it's not so much heat with the sunlight and all that heat, but you can see it's fading quite a lot. Look at this other panel, it's still in good condition, but this other panel not so much. Okay, the sticker is still holding on well, but this panel not so much. Same case applies to the front mudguard. It's metallic, which is good, but it's fading quite fast. Look at the paint work on this front suspension, and this fading. Same case applies to this other plastic panel. Compare it to this panel. I don't pack it in direct sunlight, but it's fading quite fast. So that's a con. The build quality, okay, it's not that bad, but some areas, I think especially it has to do with the paintwork. Even this panel, this is the rear mudguard, it's fading quite fast. So I can only imagine 1 year down the line, you may need to repaint it. Yes, so that's another con that I've noticed with it. And then the third, is it the third or the fourth con, has to do with the battery glitches. Here's the battery, as I already showed you. So there are three, as far as I'm concerned, there are 3 kinds of batteries. So this one is like the common language they use for these batteries. This the Spiro original one. There's another one that it has some sort of ridges. I tested it out a few days ago, and I think it was a very nice battery. The moment you put this battery here, you connect the plug. This battery is supposed to give you 100 kilometers of mileage, and 100 kilometers of mileage means 1 kilometer 1%. But that battery surprised me, because I was able to cover a whopping 12 kilometers, yet it was still reading 100%. After 12 kilometers, now it started reducing 99, 98 after every kilometer. So from that particular battery, I was able to cover around 119, 121 kilometers of mileage, which was excellent. Yet the amount you pay is about 290 shillings on an empty battery. So if, let's say, your battery was maybe 30%, you don't pay 290, you pay less. There's a way in which they do those calculations. So this actual battery that I now have here is, I think so far, 30%. I've covered about, from my calculations, about 80 kilometers. So that the first battery, the ridged one, the one that has ridges, I was able to extract about 120 kilometers roughly. This one I get about, this is now the normal one, I get about around 100, 110-ish. It depends on how you ride. So how you ride this bike, Now the side stand is on. Let's say, okay, let me just demonstrate it. The moment I remove that stand and then I press on this P here, I'm ready to go. And by default it starts at speed 2. So speed 2 limits you to about 70-80 kilometers per hour. But it's advisable that you just start at speed 1. Speed 1 will limit you to 50 kilometers per hour. Now, before I get to the, because if I'm to discuss about the 1, 2, 3, I'll be discussing the pros. But for now, let's just focus on the cons before we get to the pros. The moment you put on the side stand, let me just put it on. By default, it comes to P. So that's a safety feature, because you can imagine if you're in a situation whereby the side stand is on and then someone just comes with the malicious intention and then twists the accelerator, you'll be gone, because this bike is extremely torquey. It's so torquey. The moment you just twist this throttle, utajipata kule. The torque on this bike is, in fact, to be very honest, I've tried out 150cc bikes, 125, and from a standstill, just twist it like this, especially if you're on speed 3, umeenda. It's extremely torquey. You have to be very, very careful. That's why it's recommended that you start it at speed 1, because if you set it at speed 3, then you twist it, if you don't have the experience, then you're done. You'll be admitted, or it can even cost you your life. So you have to be very, very careful with this bike. The torque on this bike, this motor, it's something else. And again, I'm repeating, from a standstill. The top speed is 85, as I've said, around 85-90 kilometers per hour. A 150cc bike will probably smoke it in terms of the top speed, but in terms of the taking off speed from a standstill, this bike, you should not compare it to a 125, a 100, or even a 150. It will smoke those internal combustion cc bikes. Now, have I forgotten something? I was talking about the battery glitches. At times you find that you start the bike, you want to start riding, but then actually this is it's something that I've experienced I think that was about 3 weeks ago. As usual, you insert the key, twist, you press on the P. As long as the stand is not engaged, you twist your throttle and you move. This battery was not this particular one, of course I've been swapping it, so the battery was about 82%. So I did the normal thing, I twisted the throttle, nothing happened. I switched it off, on again, nikatoa park, twisted the throttle, nothing happened. Yet it was 82%. So I was wondering what's happening. So what I did, when the first time I got this bike, I was told that at times, it's not frequent, but at times these batteries can have some glitches. So what you do, let's say the battery is misbehaving and yet it's still showing that there's some power there. Maybe I can cover this in another video, but when you press this green button here, you see it shows you the battery level. So ikiwaka mpaka hapa, it shows it's 100%. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 100. So if the green one is on, like here mwisho it's 100%, 75, 50, 25. Now this red one shows it's very low. So there's a way in which you can reboot this battery, and allow me to cover this in another video. But you press on this green button, is it like a few times, and then that is now after you've switched off the bike from the ignition. So once you press on it severally, I think it was about 4 times. So I did that, and then I pressed it on, and it was able to start again, and it worked perfectly fine. And I covered it was 80, yeah, I think 82%. So I was able to cover 82 kilometers. Yeah, 82 to around 90 kilometers, and then I went and swapped the battery. So these batteries, in like 4 months, I've experienced that battery glitch only once. But the good thing is that, let's say now the battery, you've tried to reboot it and it's not working. Unfortunately, you'll have to tow the bike till you get to a swapping station, but you won't be charged like to swap or to get another battery. The maintenance of these batteries, the company, they have their own technicians who do the software updates. They know what to do with these batteries. Maybe if there's a fault, or maybe there's something that's wrong with the battery. So that's a con that personally I've experienced with these batteries, because assuming this battery is maybe, let's say, 1 year old, probably has a bit of issues here and there, but now it's up to them. If maybe it requires a software updated, or maybe it has an issue, they are the ones who will take care of all that. Now you can imagine a situation whereby you buy the bike with the battery, and then it develops an issue. Let's say you're given the charger, so you're the one to charge the battery. It's like a hybrid vehicle. After maybe 10-15 years, you have to dig deep into your pockets and replace those batteries, of which it's very expensive. But for this particular bike, for this Spiro bikes, you swap the battery. So in any case you run into, or maybe the battery experiences a problem, the company will fix the battery, because you are swapping. You're not charging the battery yourself, you're swapping. So in any case they experience any, or maybe they notice there's a problem with the battery, that's up to them. In case you're given a faulty battery, they will take care of that. Something else, the last con is delay. Now let me explain this. I've experienced this severally. I insert the key, I twist the throttle. There's a bit of a delay before the bike starts moving, and I've noticed it severally, not once, twice, or thrice. Though there's some time back I noticed there was a problem with the brake. Let's say, okay, you see, the moment I engage the front brake, or even the rear one, because the rear one you engage it from this side. This is the rear brake here. So if you engage the front or rear brake, yeah, you get this brake illumination here. You release, it goes off. You press, it comes on. So something that I noticed, let me just remove this so that I can explain to you. These are mechanical brakes. The other models that have the hydraulic brakes, but this particular one has the mechanical brakes. So I've been riding this bike even in the rain, when it's dusty and all that. So it's like dust accumulated on this area. So at some point I realized when I engaged the front brake and then I release, it wasn't releasing all that much. So it was releasing up to somewhere, let's say somewhere up to there. Yeah, somewhere up to there. So at times it was indicating that the brake is still engaged. At times it wasn't. And if it indicates that the brake is still engaged and you try to twist the throttle to move, the bike doesn't move. And at times it wasn't indicating. So I was like trying to accelerate, trying to move, nothing was happening. So later on I realized, because you know this cover, it's somewhere here. So at times you can release and then it doesn't release all that much. Ama inakwama somewhere hapo. But yet it doesn't indicate here. So you pull, nothing happens. You pull, nothing happens. So I thought maybe it was a glitch, maybe a system glitch. Maybe I think the computer is hidden somewhere under this panel. Hapo chini, just under the seat. So recently I realized that some dust and rain and all that had accumulated somewhere on this brake, front brake. No, the rear brake was working perfectly fine, but somewhere here some dust had accumulated. So when I realized that, I just applied a bit of oil, then it resumed working properly. So you can see, you pull, it indicates, you release, it disappears. You pull, it indicates, you release, it disappears. My battery is currently at 30%, and this yellow illumination here is it shows you that your side stand is on. Side stand is on. So I can't really say that it's a serious con, but it's something that I've been told by 2 other people, that this front brake, when you ride in too much rain, or maybe you ride frequently in dusty roads, that dust accumulates somewhere here, somewhere, yeah. And then now when you release the brake, it doesn't really release all that much. So at times it will indicate, at times it will not. Maybe let's say imekwamia somewhere, maybe Apple, it won't indicate. See, now it's indicating because imevuta kidogo. But now the problem is that you may release ikwamia somewhere hapo, get stuck somewhere there, and then you try pulling, it won't move. So you may be thinking maybe it's a system glitch, maybe it's something wrong with the bike, yet it's not. So that's something that they need to work on. Maybe work on the quality, or maybe just put maybe something like a cover that can prevent rain and dust from accumulating on this brake handle, because once it accumulates, this bike is electric, everything is electric here, even the stand, there's a sensor. That's why you see it indicates on the instrument cluster, there's a sensor. If I can maybe just show you the sensor, it's somewhere, yeah. So okay, this is the cable, that connects to the stand, and then the sensor is somewhere, yeah, here it is. I know they can, yeah, here's the, yeah, the sensor is somewhere there. So it's all electric, and if there's maybe something small, some dust accumulation and maybe rain and all that, in fact, if you intend to buy this bike, I would recommend don't take it to those pressure car wash people, because you see there's an opening here. This is for ventilation, because when you're going a bit of relatively long distances, the battery slightly gets hot and the motor also gets hot. So this is for ventilation. Yeah, this opening is for ventilation. So if you take this bike maybe for a pressure wash, and then water ends up accessing such places, it may end up getting into maybe the computer, maybe the battery, maybe the motor. This is the motor. Yeah, this is the motor. So you can take it maybe once in a while, but my advice, wash it. Just wash it yourself. Don't use those pressure whatevers. Those water can end up gaining access into those very sensitive components, and then so you'll have a very expensive repair bill. As I've told you, like this plug alone, if you break it, I was told by someone at Spiro, I'm not so sure, but I was told this thing is 4,000 shillings, this plug, if you break it. So you have to be very careful. Now, I think that's it. Maybe just something else I can add on. You see this instrument display. I'm not sure of the price, but I believe it may be probably over 5,000 shillings. I'm not so sure. If anyone knows, do let me know in the comment section. I wish they had something like a guard that can protect this display. Because you can imagine, maybe if you drop the bike, or maybe you get involved in a minor accident, this thing is not protected. It's not. Totally not protected. It's exposed. So you can imagine if you maybe hit something, even this headlight, I really wish they would have, you see, like now, these are crash guards to protect the plastics. I wish they did the same, maybe just something here to protect this display. That, I think, marks the end of the cons about this bike. I hope I've not left out anything. Maybe just to mention something else before I forget, the brakes. These are drum brakes. Drum brakes. They are average at best. They don't inspire a lot of confidence. They're average at best. I promise you don't want to be doing 80 kilometers per hour and then something just pops up mbele yako. These brakes, they're not that good. You'll end up hitting whatever obstacle that will be in front of you. So these brakes, no, not so good, not so good. Even if you adjust them to their sharpest biting point, still not that good. Now that marks the end of the cons. Let's now go on to the pros. The first one is low maintenance. Now this bike is an electric bike. No oil, no spark plug, no air filter, nothing. All you have to do, swap the battery. The only things to replace after maybe 10,000, yeah, I was given a mileage of about 10,000. But now that depends on how you're using this bike. Let's say you're using you are using it to probably transport a lot of luggage. Then see the chain, the sprocket, and the sprocket. I don't know. It's not very easy to see it, but this sprocket here, the motor sprocket, you change it. You change all of them at once. If you're using this bike heavily, you'll have to change the chain, the rear and front sprocket at around 10,000 kilometers. But if you're using it for lighter duties, then probably about 15,000 kilometers. So that replacement, probably between 10 to around 15,000 kilometers. Yeah. So the maintenance is very, very low. Something like the tires. These tires, after over 6,000 kilometers, they still look new. So I have probably about, if I'm to ride this bike in the long term, then maybe 15,000 kilometers or so. And they are 17 inches. Yeah, 17. Size 17. For both the front and the back. So maintenance is extremely low. Actually, the only thing, the amount that I've used in terms of maintenance over the 4 or 5 months is less than 1,000 shillings, because I've only adjusted the front and rear brakes, as well as the chain, and then I also replaced the front tube. These are not tubeless tires. They look like tubeless, but they are not. So I ended up running over something very sharp, and it damaged the front tube, so I had to replace the tube. Generally, in terms of the maintenance, less than 1,000 shillings, over 4 months. You can imagine how much you would have used. Maybe if this was a 150cc bike, way more, changing the oil and all that, depending on the amount of mileage that you're putting on the bike. Another pro is the low running costs, and that is actually related to the low maintenance cost. The running cost, if it's 0%, 290 shillings, of which you won't wait for it to get to 0%. If it's maybe 50% you want to replace, you pay half the amount. Right now it's 30%. If I want to replace this, it's probably about 200 shillings, and then I cover between 100 to 120 kilometers of mileage. Excellent. Low running costs, low maintenance costs. I don't know whether it can get better than this. It's good. Now another pro is this tank. This tank is about 16 liters of storage space. There's also, I think I showed you this in the first video that I did of this bike when I got it, and it's just nice. It's almost like a scooter. You know those scooters, they have the engine is low down, so you have a bit of storage here. You can put the helmet. Of course you can't put the helmet in here, but you can put in quite a lot. Gloves, so many things. Your phone can charge in here, you name it, so many things. Even a jacket can fit in here, so that's a big plus. I really appreciate that storage space. Now the other pro, I must confess that when these e-bikes started being rolled out, I was a bit skeptical of the swapping stations, or maybe we can also call them the charging stations. I was so skeptical that now you find that it covers 100 kilometers, but then let's say you are moving from point A to point B, and maybe point B there's no electricity and all that. Maybe there are no batteries, or maybe there are so many motorbikes that are there for swapping, so you may end up wasting a lot of time. But in my personal experience, 4 months ago, it was a bit difficult. You find that as I've told you, I've tested this bike extensively. So that's headlight. So 4 months ago, at times you get to a specific swapping station, and then you find that a battery is maybe 90%. You have to wait for it to get to 100%. And by the way, even if you get a battery at 90%, that let's say it was your battery was 0, and then you are charged to 90, and yet the battery you are being given is 90%. That extra amount doesn't go to waste. It's transferred to your wallet, your Spiro wallet. Now, with time, people complained, and the company has really tried. Since about 3 months, maybe 2 months ago, no delay, nothing. It's like riding into a petrol station. You take probably 3 minutes, you swap. You take 3 minutes, you refuel, you're on your way. Same thing applies to these e-bikes, especially for the ones that you have to swap. You ride into a swapping station, 3 minutes you're done, you're on your way. Another thing that I can also, maybe just to expound on that, this company has seriously tried to put up as many swapping stations as possible. Let's say, in fact, just to mention, there's someone who did 360 kilometers from Nairobi to Kisumu on this bike, not this particular one, but on a Spiro. There's a battery that I think it's about, the name is Ampez. I'm not so sure. Do let me know if you are aware of that. Do let me know in the comment section. Ampez. That battery can give you a mileage of about 200 kilometers. So the guy was able to do a trip from Nairobi all the way to Kisumu on an e-bike. So it tells you this is the future of not just bikes but also vehicles. So it's a good thing that they are really trying to put up as many swapping stations. Probably after every 50 kilometers you get a swapping station, but the battery itself can give you between 100 to 120 kilometers of mileage. As I've said, I've done that, so it's something that I have done. Now that said, let's move on to this should be the last con, the last pro. And you don't have to worry about the battery degradation. I even talked about this earlier. As I said earlier, if maybe you are buying this bike and then you are given what do they call it? They install the charging equipment at your place. So you have to work with that battery, and the moment it gets the moment it gets degraded, you'll have to part with some significant chunk of money to replace that battery. But now, being that it's a matter of swapping, maintenance of that battery, software updates, because these batteries they also do some software updates, all that, it's up to the company. I had some people saying that, well, no, that's not a good thing. Maybe if you're buying the bike on loan and then you once you clear the loan, the battery is still not yours. But that is an advantage, because let's say now the battery is yours, and then after maybe 2 years the battery is degraded. You have to part with probably even 20, 30,000 shillings to just replace the battery. I think, in my personal opinion, it's better the battery remains a property of the company. So all you'll be doing is just swapping. And as I've said, there's no guarantee that when it comes to swapping, you'll not experience any issues. Probably you will, but there are very low chances. And even if you experience an issue with the battery, the company will somehow like, you will be charged for the next swap. Like now, if let's say this battery has a problem, I tow the bike, I take it to the nearest swapping station. Let's say now the battery is 30%, or let's say even if it was maybe 90%, I tow it to the nearest swapping station. I won't be charged anything for the next swap. So I think that's an advantage, as opposed to maybe having to buy. You can imagine this battery is like 40 kgs. So you can imagine how much lithium ion, how much will it cost to buy a new battery. If now your battery is degraded after probably 3, 4, 5 years, it will cost probably more, maybe even more than the bike's value. So I think that is it's a pro. That's an advantage. Maybe some people may look at it differently, but it's an advantage. Maybe just nikimalizia, the light is bright enough. I've never seen the need to install any aftermarket auxiliary lights on the crash bars. It's bright enough. All these are LEDs, so they don't consume a lot of energy. This is LED. We just put on the indicators. Yeah, this is LED. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with hazard lights. I mean hazard switch. It's something that is easy to connect. You just maybe put a switch here, and then a few connections, modifications, and that's it. And this is the, like, if you want to do any modifications, you have to tap the power from like the main cable. Yeah, so I think I've tried my best to cover everything. If I've left out anything, do feel free to let me know in the comment section. This is a very raw video. I'm not going to edit it. Yeah, I'm not going to edit it. Just a very raw video. I've tested this bike out for over 4 months. Would I recommend it over maybe a 100cc, a 125cc, or 150cc bike? Absolutely, and especially if you are on a budget. Why? Low maintenance. The purchasing price has risen. About 4 months ago, it was about around 110, 112ish. Now it's 133. So high demand, high price, and it will keep rising. So if you are looking for cheap transportation, if you are maybe intend to venture into business, maybe delivering food, any deliveries, maybe any kind of business, and you need a motorbike, probably for just you'll be doing short to relatively long distances. I've done the longest distance I've done on this bike is about 90 kilometers. I did that on a single battery. By the time I was getting to my destination, I had about 30 something percent. So 30 something, literally I still had over 30 kilometers to cover. So this bike can give you over 110, probably 120 kilometers of mileage. I would highly recommend it. And this is not a sponsored video. It's not sponsored. If you need a bike for short to relatively long distances, maybe in terms of long, I mean a maximum of 100. And when I say it will give you 120 kilometers of mileage, I mean doing speeds of between 40 to about 60, 70 kilometers. Not bad. It's not a racing bike. It's not a racing bike. Ride this bike speeds of between 40 to around 60, 70 kilometers per hour. Perfect. You'll not regret it. There's no maintenance here. These tires and shocks, tires and shocks, you give yourself maybe 1.5 2 years, depending on the mileage you're putting on it. The sprockets, the chain, 10 to 15,000 kilometers. No maintenance. Just swap the battery, you're good to go. The torque, it's good enough. From a standstill, it's perfect. It's good enough. Thanks a lot for watching. Do let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I was out here doing a bit of a nature ride. Tires, not so good. It's not an adventure bike, but I'll just trying some abnormal things with the bike, but so far so good. Thanks a lot. Ride safe, drive safe, and see you in the next one.